Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a video all about short books. The main reason why I've decided to do a video about short books is because this year I haven't really been reading as much as I normally would, and I don't quite know what that's all about, but I found recently that reading short books has held my attention more and has made me start reading more books. One of the main books that have really sort of made me, I don't know, like hungry again to read have been books like this recent purchase, which is The Cat Who Saved Books by Suzuki Natsukawa. This was recently published, I think it was in September, the translation from Japanese, and I bought this a couple of days ago and I've already nearly finished it. Normally when I buy a book it will sit on my bookshelf for a very long time before I pick it up, but I saw this in Waterstones and I was just like, oh my gosh, is this book everything that I like about books all in one place? Like, it's set in Japan, it's about a young boy whose grandfather works in a second-hand bookshop, and there's cats in it and it's magical realism and I really like it. Nearly finished it, but I feel like it's going to stay with me for quite a while after reading it. And that's really what I like in books, is books that give you an impact, whether it's something subtle like the atmosphere and it leaves you sort of feeling good afterwards or feeling thoughtful, or whether it's something that really sort of packs a punch and really deconstructs an idea that you hadn't thought of before. So I just want to share with you a few books that I've read over the years and more recently that have sort of made me either fall back in love with reading or feel something. So the first one, I could not really not mention this. Sputnik Sweetheart by Murakami. So it's under 250 pages, which I think is going to be like my barrier sort of for short books. So Sputnik Sweetheart, this was the first Murakami book that I ever read. So I had been introduced to Murakami's work through just my love of the Beatles and finding out that my favourite Beatles song, Norwegian Wood, was the name of a book as well. I did buy both books at the same time, so I bought Norwegian Wood and Sputnik Sweetheart at the same time because I just thought it sounded interesting, and I was like, why is it called Sputnik Sweetheart? That just sounds a bit random. And I picked this up first because I was slightly intimidated by the size of Norwegian Wood, because I am someone that just finds it easier, I think, to read smaller books, especially when you're getting into a new author. Like, I would rather read a short book rather than a chunky one, because you're not going to spend as much time on it, and if you don't like it then you haven't wasted as much time. I don't know whether that's the right way to look at things. So Sputnik Sweetheart is told from the point of view of a young man called Kay, and he is in love with Sumir, who is in love with another woman. There's like a mysterious undercurrent. It's really good, but like classic Murakami, might not be the best one to read if you're just getting into him, but that didn't actually stop me, and I thought, wow, I really like this author, and then continued reading his work. But yeah, so this book holds a special place in my heart. Shall we continue with translated? To be honest, most of the books that I read are actually translated literature. I realised this the other day, but I think it's because throughout like the school system, the only books you really ever read were boring classics, and because you're studying in England, English literature. So I think I made it a point after leaving school and sort of falling out of love with books for a while to then start seeking out diverse reads, because I was just bored of what I'd already known. So most of the books, I will confess, on this pile are actually translated fiction. Should we continue with Murakami? Because I do have two more on the pile. The other two Murakamis I would recommend if you're stuck and you want something quick, interesting and fun to read to sort of reignite reading for you. Pick up The Strange Library or After Dark. What makes The Strange Library quite an intriguing and very easy read is because it's a short story with pictures, and it's really quite compelling to follow this bizarre labyrinth of a story with these beautiful illustrations. And I like that the front cover is like what you get inside a book when you take it out from the library. And then on the back it says, all I did was go to the library to borrow some books. I just love how like nonchalant characters encounter such bizarre stuff in Murakami. I think that's like one of the charms, is just everyone's so casual and then all this bizarre stuff happens and like, oh, okay, that's a bit strange. After Dark is a bit of a strange one. It feels very cinematic, and I think it's been a while since I've read this, but I swear there's like allusions to almost like camera directions in it. Like it says something about like zooming in and things like that, so I thought that was rather interesting. Some characters meet at a cafe, but then there's also another character that's in a coma, and there's like some kind of haunting presence in it. Oh, okay, like one of these sentences in the back here says strange nocturnal happenings or a trick of the night. But that's pretty much After Dark in a nutshell. Is this just trickery of your imagination that becomes more attuned to bizarreness as the sun sets, because for some reason it's been ingrained into us that there's like spookiness that happens in the night. Can I just say I just love all of these vintage Murakami covers. So that endeth my love affair with short Murakami books. So continuing with Japanese literature, I'll quickly talk about Strange Weather in Tokyo by Hiromi Kawakami. This is a story about two adults, one a female middle-aged woman and then the other an old male, and they have a unique relationship for the fact that they used to be teacher and student, and then they meet again later in life and sort of form this very close and wholesome bond with each other, and it follows their like burgeoning relationship over a period of seasons. And it's probably one of the loveliest books I've read this year, for the fact that it just takes you very softly and shows you just like a little slice of their life, and gets you really thinking about people around you and appreciating the transitions of everything in life, whether it's the seasons, whether it is as you age. Loved it. It's beautiful, and I feel like this could make a TV series, like a Japanese TV series, and I'd love for that to be a thing. If it hasn't already, I wonder if it has, I might have to find out. Or like a movie. Either way, I need more of this. The other two books that are short and Japanese, I don't actually have them with me because I either read them on Kindle. I think actually both of these I got from NetGalley's advanced reader copies a couple of years ago when they first got published. Let me just quickly consult my phone because I have the worst memory in the world. Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata, and then the second one is The Last Children of Tokyo by Yoko Tawada. Both beautiful, both haunting in their own way. Convenience Store Woman follows a woman that works in a convenience store, and everyone around her tells her that she should hope for more in life, that she should be doing more to become a better person, but she enjoys her life at the convenience store. And she's a bit of a strange, like, not typical person, but it's a great read. And then The Last Children of Tokyo is sort of a study on the ageing population of Japan, so it is kind of, I don't know whether it's a fable or it's using it as an allegory, but it's about a society where the children being born are sickly and ill and they don't live for very long. And then you've got the older generation who are doing all the work. So in Japan there is an ageing population, so it's sort of, I don't know, it's looking into that and thinking this is a crisis, and as people are getting older but not many people being born, it's going to sort of change the dynamics of the country forever. So I thought that was interesting. It's obviously science fiction, but I like it when books focus on something that is kind of real and already happened and then kind of switches it and adds more of a sci-fi spin to it. So I thought that was interesting. So those are my recommendations from Japanese literature. Okay, next up we have to talk about another one of my favourite authors. I've got 3 of his books to suggest, and that is none other than Yong-ha Kim, or Kim Yong-ha, depends on how you say it. Some of these say Yong-ha Kim, and then Kim Yong-ha. It's the same person, but obviously Korean and other Asian countries say the surname before the first name. The book that started my obsession with Kim Yong-ha is I Have the Right to Destroy Myself. It is one of my favourite books ever. It's so dark, it's so bizarre. It's almost Murakamian, but I think a bit more darker and sort of has the undercurrent cynicism that you see in a lot of dark Korean movies and TV shows. But yeah, it's about a sort of nameless spectral figure that goes around helping people to kill themselves, hence the title I Have the Right to Destroy Myself. It sort of studies the dissatisfaction of urban life and how damaged some people are because of society and expectations and abuse, and yeah, it's, like I said, it's dark, but it's quite like a dreamy but like nightmarish tone to it. And again, like, I find it weird but interesting when books have connections to things I like. Like, for example, in this book, one of the characters is referred to as Judith because she reminds one of the protagonists of Gustav Klimt's Judith and Holofernes, which is one of my most favourite, if not my favourite painting ever. So that just sort of was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And then I also discovered an artist through this book, which is Namjoon Paik. He's a video artist and one of the foremost creative minds of video art. And I was lucky enough to actually go to an exhibition of his before the pandemic, like literally in February 2020. So it was like, it was on the horizon, but it hadn't sort of come yet. So that was nice. But I just think it's cool when books, I don't know, like talk about art and philosophy, and this is that kind of book. So some people call it pretentious, but I really like it. And so if you're interested in things like art, culture, darkness of the human psyche, and something a bit controversial, then you'll like this. Diary of a Murderer and Other Stories. So this is a short story collection. That's always great if you're sort of bored and you want something quick and entertaining, because it's short stories, they're short, snappy. So I do like to read a good short story collection. And this one is named after the title story, which is Diary of a Murderer, and it's really, really good. It's about a former serial killer who has developed Alzheimer's, and so he keeps a diary and he's trying to hold on to these memories, and then there's like a new killer in town and things get dangerous, things get very bizarre. It's really good. It's also darkly comical as well. I think that's why I really like Kim Young-ha's writing, is it's really dark, but there's like this biting comedy that really sort of shocks you but makes you laugh as well. And I guess in that way, like, I would recommend reading Kim Young-ha if you enjoyed Squid Game, because that's dark, that's a critique on society, specifically like democratization and depravity of capitalism when it sort of goes off the rail, and it's quite funny as well. So yeah, pick up Kim Young-ha if you want a taste of that, but in literature. And then the final one is Photoshop Murder, and this is 2 short stories in one book, and I got this secondhand because I could not get it anywhere, and for such a small book it did cost me a small fortune. Even if it is a bit beaten up and a bit like crumpled, I think it adds to the charm. But the 2 books in the, or the 2 stories in the book is Photoshop Murder, and it's about a murder that takes place in a Photoshop. And yeah, again, it unfolds like a movie, and I think that's one thing I could definitely say about Kim Young-ha's writing, is it's very cinematic. Like, I could imagine Photoshop Murder being a film directed by Park Chan-wook or Bong Joon-ho or Lee Chang-dong actually. It's a crime story, and I know all of them have done films like Burning. Lee Chang-dong's Burning is sort of a crime, sort of introspective study on jealousy, masculinity and things like that. Bong Joon-ho did Memories of Murdoch, which I haven't watched yet, which is completely ridiculous because I do have, let me just grab it, this rather sensational box set of all his movies that have been released in England. Anyway, back to what I was saying before I started showing you this really random box set. So yeah, and then obviously like Park Chan-wook's Revenge trilogy is iconic, so I reckon any one of those 3 directors could do Photoshop Murder. I don't know why we always talk about books and films together. What is with me? Oh, that smells old. And then the second story is Whatever Happened to the Guy Stuck in the Elevator, and it's completely absurd, bizarre, strange, Yeah, so 2 short stories in one little book. That would definitely be great to read. Kim Jiyoung, born 1982. And this book really is essential reading for everyone. The fact that she's called Kim Jiyoung, which, in case you don't know, Kim is the most popular surname in Korea, and Jiyoung during the 80s was the most popular girl's name. It means she's an every woman who could be any woman, not just in Korea but around the world. And that's what makes this book really important and really special. It's not sensational prose, it's not a groundbreaking story, it's a heartfelt story about a woman struggling in a world that was not created for her. She is a woman that faces persecution, harassment, and prejudice from others around her. Also other women, but mainly men. I might just read this on the back because it just gives you a taste of what is in store. Kim Jiyoung is a girl born to a mother whose in-laws wanted a boy. Kim Jiyoung is a sister made to share a room while her brother gets one of his own. Kim Jiyoung is a daughter whose father blames her when she is harassed late at night. Kim Jiyoung is a model employee who gets overlooked for promotion. Kim Jiyoung is a wife who gives up her career and independence for a life of domesticity. Kim Jiyoung has started acting strangely. Kim Jiyoung is depressed. Kim Jiyoung is mad. Kim Jiyoung is her own woman. Kim Jiyoung is every woman. If you're not convinced to pick it up after that, there's no hope. 2 other books we have are Kang. So we've got Upside Down. I was wondering, I was like, what? Why is that open in a different way? Idiot. Kang, The Vegetarian and The White Book. One is probably very well known because it won the Man Booker International Prize in 2016, which is when I picked it up and read it and fell in love. So this is a story of a woman told from the point of view of 3 people around her who has decided that she doesn't want to eat meat and that she's a vegetarian, but it's much more than that. It's a woman at breaking point and a woman that has decided that she wants to do something for herself, even if it is dangerous to her. Brilliantly written, very interesting the way it's told, and yeah, I mean, like, this synopsis, like, why does everyone manage to say it better than I can? I mean, I guess that's why they're paid to say these things on the back, and I'm not. A beautiful, unsettling novel in 3 acts about rebellion and taboo, violence and eroticism, and the twisting metamorphosis of a soul. Beautiful, yes, and as The Guardian says, it's an extraordinary experience. So read this if you want to be unsettled, but also mesmerised by Kang's prose and the unravelling of a very intriguing story. The White Book is part memoir, part sort of poetical truth. And read this if you're interested in Kang as a person. The idea of grief, like the limits of the soul and just human stuff. And the theme, because it's called The White Book, it's told in segments about things that are white. Oh, the lighting keeps changing so much. It's almost poetry but in prose, and it's just selecting certain things and having a meditation on them and thinking what they could suggest. Like, I just flicked through it, and like snowflakes is something that she talks about, silence, sand, perpetual snow, lace curtains and things like that. So it's just looking at everyday things but imbuing them with something more meaning. It's almost like art, I guess, like looking at things and sort of giving them more meaning than you would normally think. Arthur Schnitzler's The Dream Story. I talked about this in my, what month was it? October wrap-up. It's intriguing, it's dream-like because it's called Dream Story, and it's also the book that inspired Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut. I forgot what it was called then. So if you're interested in that, definitely pick it up. It will surprise you, and then it will also feel very familiar if you've watched the movie, but then you'll be also surprised as well. And I really enjoyed it. Tayyib Salih's Seasons of Migration to the North. A powerful book about a very sort of tense subject. So it's all about colonialism. It's the story of a young man who meets another man called Mustafa Saeed, who has been to London, I think it's to study, and as a black Arab man, he is fetishised and sort of, yeah, like it's quite disturbing what happens to him, and then he returns home and like more bizarre stuff happens. And ultimately it's just a really intriguing portrait of a culture that has been disrupted and not destroyed, but really sort of wrecked by the West, and how damaging colonialism can be, not just on the country but on the psyche as well. So it's not an easy read, but it's definitely a worth the read, I would say, and it's one of my favourite books. I've only read it once, but it really sort of surprised me, and I've just really found it quite an amazing experience, so I will definitely have to read this again soon. Invisible Cities by Italo Calvino. It takes place as if it's conversations between Marco Polo and Kublai Khan, and it's a set of descriptions about cities. And what is intriguing about it is that Marco Polo describes these very interesting, seemingly unique cities that feel very dreamlike, but at the crux of everything, it's just all the same city, and it's Venice, his hometown, which he misses because he's been on an adventure for years and years and years in the East. And so he's sort of meditating on all the different things that make a city, and how you can describe other places, but because of the first place you knew, everything is just comparison. Nothing can be seen as its own unique thing. It's always seen in comparison to something else. And the descriptions in here are beautiful, and I really just find it a fascinating exercise on description. Like, for nothing else, if you want to learn description and the art of writing description, read this. And finally, for the physical books that I'll mention, my love, Angela Carter, Heroes and Villains. This is a strange one. It's set who knows when, who knows where, but there's a young girl called Marianne who lives in a tower, and she lives with scientists and people of reason. And then one day, savages come along, but she's fascinated by these savages, and she follows them, falls in love with one, and just random stuff happens. Oh, post-apocalyptic. So it's probably after society has collapsed. Yay! But yeah, it's brilliant. I love the way Angela Carter writes. It's like this intoxicating mixture of danger, eroticism, almost gothic as well, in just the way it plays out, and like, I'm just such a fan, to be honest. So pick this up if you want something post-apocalyptic but different to what you may have already read in that genre before. And then just going over to my phone to consult the list that I made of short books that I would recommend to regain your inspiration for reading. The Summer Book by Tove Jansson. Beautiful, tells a story in sort of segments about a old woman and her granddaughter on a Finnish island in summer. It's really atmospheric. It is summer in a book. Beautiful, brilliant. Read it in the winter if you want a little bit of sunshine back in your life. The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. A beautiful meditation on being a good person. That's what I would call this. There's some really great sentiments that would seem obvious, but a lot of people forget this. So it's a good book to read if you want to, I don't know, it's almost like self-help, but poetic self-help. To become a better person, read this book. Delving into science fiction a little bit. To Be Taught If Fortunate by Becky Chambers. What an intriguing little story. It's set in the future, obviously, and it's about like a crew that go exploring different planets, and they collect details about the life there and the sort of flora and fauna they encounter, and it's just really beautiful. It's a diverse cast of like non-binary characters and male, female, different races as well. It's an intriguing look at how we could potentially approach space travel in the future and studying other life forms if we were ever to come into contact with them. Yeah, like with a lot of these books, I can't remember like exact details, but I can like remember the spirit of the story, let's say. So yeah, I really enjoyed that one, and I feel like I might have to read it again. I think I got it from the library, so I might just have to get an actual copy of it. And then the last book I will mention as part of this video is My Sister, the Serial Killer by Oyin Khan Braithwaite. I listened to this on audiobook and it was really quite enjoyable. It's about this woman called Corrady. I, again, can't pronounce names. Who is a nurse, and her sister has a habit of killing people. And she, because she is a good sister, goes and helps her cover up these murders. And each time it becomes more and more sort of intense, more difficult on her to sort of excuse this behaviour. Yeah, so it's an intriguing read if you're interested in dark characters, twisted familial bonds, because like, for example, if my sister was a serial killer, there is no way I would help her clean up and hide bodies. You're on your own, sis. So it's interesting to unpack that and sort of look at what would compel someone to do that for someone else. Yeah, so I would personally recommend listening to the audiobook because it was read by Weruchi Opia. I don't know whether I'm saying that completely wrong. Who was one of the lead actresses in Michaela Cole's I May Destroy You. And so because she's a Nigerian woman, she gives the characters a Nigerian accent, so it gives you more immersion into the story. And I just loved the way she told the story, the way everyone had their own unique voices, even the male characters, and it was just really enjoyable to listen to. That is the end of my video. Thank you for sticking around. Let me know in the comments section if you've read any of these short books that I've been talking about, or whether you yourself have some recommendations that you think I might be interested in or other viewers might be interested in. Please leave them in the comments section. And thank you for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye bye. Yeah.